Good morning to everyone.
Good
We are
morning.
back for our Friday live, and we are so excited. First of all, not only is this the last one of the year, but this has also been a momentous year for us, considering this group just kicked off probably about a month and a half ago?
Yes, uh-huh.
About a month and a half ago, and it was purely by absolute everything lining up correctly. And so this one is very momentous, and we're very honored and grateful to have Sherry with us. Who I'm going to let her explain what she does and how she does it. I only know a very, very small piece of the puzzle. So I'm just as excited to hear more about her as well. And of course, Lee, if you want to jump in and ask her some questions too, feel free. But this morning, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the subject of, as we are all female entrepreneurs, how do we balance out life and how do we look forward to a new year? Like 2024 is so close now. And we just wanted to talk about how we fit it all in and how we keep going, because I just explained to Sherry right before we jumped on that most women in this group are entrepreneurs and also mothers, partners, wives, whatever the title may fit. Most of us have multiple titles. So, how do we do it? How do we keep it going year after year, create momentum, still get out of bed without enough sleep? Or am I only speaking about myself? Sherry, I think, okay, yes, we're getting a yes from you. So, I would love to, first of all, learn a little bit more about your path as an entrepreneur. And then we can go ahead into the how do we do it all, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Well, this is so much fun to be here. Thanks
Thank you.
for inviting me.
Of course.
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur. January 3rd is my date, that I consider myself becoming an entrepreneur. So I'm going to be in this interesting lifestyle for 7 years. It'll be my seventh anniversary coming up.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so super excited about that. And how I became an entrepreneur is I didn't just say, okay. In fact, I didn't know the word entrepreneur. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to spell it. I didn't know what it even meant. I kind of tripped into it, if you will, and thought, hey, maybe this might work for me. So 7 years ago, I got into real estate, and my passion to get into real estate is not the normal thing that most people get into real estate to do, which is make a lot of money. It's a good place to put your money rather than the bank. But that's not why I got into real estate. So I live in Canada's poorest neighborhood, and it's called the Downtown East Side. And my neighborhood, I actually live here, and it's been my neighborhood for 20 years. I've raised my kids here. I have 5 kids. So that whole balance thing is really interesting that we're going to talk about today. But um, so I moved here because this I'm was born and raised in the Salvation Army, and my grandfather was a well-respected Salvation Army. We call them officers. We use the same lingo as a regular army, and he just was a. I got to live with him for 5 years when I was little, and so I moved to the downtown east side with my husband in our early 20s. I had 2 small children and I was pregnant with my third. And we decided that, yes, this is in fact the best place that we could raise our kids. And so we really wanted to just, we didn't want to just say that we were believers and go to church on a Sunday. We wanted to really act out our faith for our children. And so that whole idea of loving your neighbor as yourself was something that we really wanted to embody, and we wanted to practice every day. And so that's what we did. We joined this crazy, out there, out of the box kind of group called 614 with the Salvation Army. And we moved in with other couples with other small children, and we created a community. And
Wow.
that's a real huge part of what I do now with real estate. So there's these two pieces that I've married together, which is this whole idea of creating community and support with the idea of owning your own place in real estate, and what does that look like. And so I have my business is called Steadfast Developments, and we have a colossal vision to revitalize Canada's poorest neighborhood through a three-step process, which is a family, a home, and a job. And when you've got all these three pieces together, we believe that you'll find success. And so I kind of moved from working with the Salvation Army 7 years ago. I ended that and I bought my first fix and flip home in real estate. And that was my start date. And I had no money. I just had a lot of faith and a strong vision. Is what I wanted to do is I wanted to help my friends that were leaving poverty, that were leaving drug addiction, and in my case a lot of it was women, so prostitution was a big part of their lives and they were leaving all of that behind, which you can imagine if that's all you know in all your life, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But they were taking these great leaps of faith with me and our community and believing that there was something better for them, and I wanted to be a part of that. And part of that was housing. And so I had this amazing opportunity to walk with my friends in finding decent housing, and there just isn't anything out there. So I was super inspired to find housing. And so I started fixing and flipping homes, and then with the profits, we created long-term housing for women that did otherwise would have never had a home. So that's kind of my was that 5 minutes
That's okay. That's okay.
what
You
I'm
can take a full
what I'm
hour. We
doing.
don't care.
So I call myself a social justice land developer,
Yeah. That's
and
a
that's what I
beautiful.
do. And there's about a handful of them around the world. Like
Yeah.
it's a niche. There's about 12 of us
Wow.
people have gone before and done this. This is actually a career and an entrepreneur um, uh, journey. So I'm not new, but there's not a lot of us, because usually when you have the skills to develop land and be in real estate and in commercial, which by the way is like 95% male,
Yeah.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
then you usually go and make a lot of money. That's usually what you do, because if you got the skills and you use them.
Yes.
There's a few of us that have decided that the impact and the legacy is as important as
Absolutely.
as making the money. So that's a bit of my business, my entrepreneurial business, and I've been doing Steadfast for 3 years now. I got trained in commercial for a year. I got this really weird opportunity where I got to follow around a commercial real estate guy. I had this. It was a mentorship for sure program that we just kind of created together, and I learned a lot through that. And then the following year, I went on to creating Steadfast. So here we
Beautiful.
are. I'm still here. Yeah,
That's
That's
awesome.
my
absolutely a
story.
beautiful story.
Yeah.
Lee, is
Thank
there?
you for doing that. That's I agree. That's not a normal story behind people who get into real estate. They do get into real estate to make money. And the fact that you pay it forward and that your real goal is to provide housing for people who otherwise would not be able to afford it, and for people who have left a lifestyle that was not good for them, and you've provided them with that gateway to leave it behind permanently and be able to have hope to for whatever comes in the future. So that's huge. That's huge. So I personally want to thank you for that. I know that I haven't been helped personally, but the fact that you are helping others, which is what all of us have the goal to do, is it's a beautiful thing.
The thing
Thank
that
you.
I always recognize though is that as entrepreneurs, because again, we're always stressing how everybody has a unique path and
Mhm.
everyone has a unique calling. And we've talked about this. Lee can tell you how many hours we've devoted to this conversation just internally and as a team, that our why drives our vision. And that
Totally.
is a really big deal to us.
Mhm.
That's something we discuss with business partners. That's something we discuss with students. And I mean, anybody that comes within the sphere of our company, Grit and King, that's going to be a conversation you have to have with us because it is so important.
Totally.
And we actually, that's part of our branding for other business partners as well. We want to get to the root of their why, because that's what drives you on the days that are rough. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I've talked about this before, and Lee knows this, that on the really rough days, I imagine myself getting up with an invisible backpack in those rough mornings.
Yeah.
And I put a boulder physically, like I mentally, or I should say mentally, imagine, physically, no, not that quite strong. I haven't gone to the gym as much as I should be. Putting a boulder into the backpack for each person I feel responsible for. Not that I'm say I'm responsible. Who do I choose in life? And those are the people I think about when I get up on the really rough days. And that why is the motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And your why is just so beautiful and large. That's the thing I love about it. It's a very big why. And we really respect that. So we're, it's, there is a gentleman that I got a chance to do his master classes. And if you've never heard of him, and I tell everyone to get into one of his master classes, his name is Chris Smith of the Campfire Effect. And I can give it to you later too. Don't worry. But the reason being is his whole mission is helping people find their why to become entrepreneurs.
Interesting.
And so you really have a similar vibe to yourself because of you found your why and you didn't let anything stop you. You said money, opportunity, didn't matter. This was your why and you were going to see it through. And that's something I very much appreciate about these conversations with other entrepreneurial females, but also each of us have a unique path. So we never have to worry about competing or stepping on anybody's toes, ever. Absolutely ever. And in fact, Lee, I will tell you, Sherry was on a conference call with me a couple of weeks ago. Now I remember the conversation because after you had given probably about a 2-minute elevator speech that day, that I actually got off the call and I told my business partner, my boyfriend, about you. And he stopped. He's like, wow. That's so cool. I want to meet her. So I will tell you that this is just the preview to many more conversations.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you.
But you make me stop and think about, I came from the side of town that was primarily very white collar, middle class, very, very middle class. Like my parents' home, they've lived in the same home since 2 months before I was born. They still live in the same home. The neighborhood has shifted a bit, but not in a bad way. It's just evolved with time. Yeah. Whereas the neighborhood that I raised my children in wasn't white collar. It was the blue collar side of town. And the differences of what's available and how far you have to go for things even. And it's just very interesting to me because I've lived in both. I've lived in very, very nice, and then I've lived in very, very old, as well, where it wasn't the neighborhood I raised my children in. The thing is, most people didn't understand was a lot of the children moved out. It was the aging parents that couldn't keep up with their homes. It wasn't a bad area.
Right.
But it deserved time and love and devotion too, because it was a loving family neighborhood. And I agree with you that I've always thought about every time I drive through my neighborhood to that house, I always think about this neighborhood deserves so much more. And so I appreciate what you're talking about because there's so many, talking about the real estate history there's mansions there that date back to the early 1900s that have floor to ceiling fireplace. Just beautiful, beautiful. And it's not truly appreciated because people don't have the money to change that back to that pristine neighborhood. So I just I'm telling you, you just made me think a lot about that neighborhood. So thank you for that too.
Fantastic. Good.
So now on to, you have 5. I have, between my boyfriend and myself, we have 6 children, but I have 3. Wow. He has 3. His are grown. So, sorry, Lee, not trying to exclude you from this conversation.
No, I have no children.
Lee is the devoted auntie to my children for life.
I love it. Oh my gosh, we need more Lees.
That's yes. Auntie
I have one
is, if we could all,
love them.
If we could devote time to actually producing more Auntie Lees, the world would be a perfect place.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
So, but I want to hear from your perspective of, that daily challenge of, do we sit all day and work, or do we spend time with our children, and how do we do both? Because that's always the issue as mothers,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, one of the upsides of being an entrepreneur is that flexibility.
Yes.
So you can work while they're sleeping. So mine are pretty much all grown now. My youngest is 17. I have a 19-year-old, sorry, two 19-year-olds, a 21-year-old, and a 23-year-old. So they're kind of doing the thing. And right now they're sleeping,
Yeah.
right? So I get up and I do my emails, I do my texts, I do my podcasts while they're sleeping. And my eldest has autism, so I'm his advocate on a lot of things. So picking up the phone for him and making phone calls is really really difficult. So we've together worked, tried to give him as much independence as he possibly can. But sometimes, if he needs, yesterday I was talking to the pharmacy for him. So he'll say, "Hey mom, I got a doctor's appointment at 3:15. Can you come with me so that you can talk to the doctor on my behalf?" So okay, sure. So then I make sure that all my calls on, Tuesday at 3:15 are scheduled around that really
Of course.
important piece, to be that advocate for my eldest son. My youngest son has type 1 diabetes. And so it's the same thing. It's like, okay, well, we got this doctor's appointment, or we've got this pump training, or we got whatever is coming. And just that flexibility is something that has been massively attractive. So when we were working with the Salvation Army, it was the same thing. It was this idea of building community on my own schedule.
That's
Um,
wonderful.
so I could uh, involve my kids. My kids could come along. So we did homeschooling. My kids have been a massive, like, we never put them in daycare, although, like, I have no judgment at all for moms that
Yes.
put kids in daycare. That's just their path. My path was the opportunity to keep my kids really close to me while I was doing work. And it just has always been that way. Like, in fact, as a visionary, I can't actually imagine, like, doing a 9 to 5 or something and saying, "Sorry, I can't help you right now." So right now I'm in that stage of life where I give my kids rides to work, and just that's just what is just so one of the huge benefits of being your own boss, and is working around your family, not
Yes.
the other way around.
Yes.
And I just think that that's super super amazing and wonderful.
And
So that's why I do it.
interesting because you and I have very similar stories, as in my children are homeschooled as well. And I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years. So that's all
Mm,
they've ever known. So being that they are both still sleeping right now, my boys that are still at home with me, but that as soon as this is done, I will go try to shake, especially my middle son, out of bed. He's our hibernating bear, as I call him, every morning. But they just get up and they know it is a privilege to be homeschooled because, again, it requires dedication and self-starting skills that when you're in a classroom setting, they tell you open your book and start something. Whereas when you're homeschooled, you have to be a bit more attentive to mom said it's time to do homework, and we have a timer that's set every day. However, that gives them their time, and then I work at the same time. So
mm,
that's been very
mm,
normal to us. But Sherry,
mm-hmm.
I will tell you a very funny story. When my middle son, he could have been the captain of the debate team by the age of about 4. And if he asked you one question, he had 10 lined up behind it. And he's the only one out of my 3 that I had to say because mom said so at a certain point. And I always hate that answer.
Love it.
But there was a certain point where I'm like, I don't know. So I'm going to say because mom said so. And I really, honestly, very handful of times that I actually use that with him. However, I will tell you, though, that he knows and loves being homeschooled because of flexibility for travel and also just doing things,
Yeah,
and getting done earlier in the year to have a longer summer because they're into baseball. Like there's a lot of benefits.
right.
But I
Totally.
will tell you, when I had that time period where he was a little bit like, I don't want to do this, I would tell him, I'm like, well, okay, since you're in your jammies, I want you to go get in the car right now. He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, go get in the car. We're going to go and count how many other kids are in their jammies right now doing their homework
Well
or
done,
walking
Mama.
to school. And he goes, okay. That was the conversation. So once in a while, I'll say, hey, we could go drive by schools and look at jammies. He's like, nope. That's all it
That's
takes.
awesome.
But it's interesting to me, and I was telling my boyfriend this yesterday, that children that are homeschooled are so perfect for entrepreneurialism.
Mm.
It's just a natural fit. I'm a homeschool kid myself. I ended up transitioning from regular school to homeschooling because of my health. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So for
Mm.
me, it was essential for me to be able to be ahead of the trend and be more of a person that works from home and is at home and can function from home for an entire life. But my children, it was just a normal fit. And in fact, I always tell everybody, if they do not understand homeschooling, my children don't understand what it's like to stand in line for like a water slide, because they think it's normal to go to somewhere like the Wisconsin Dells or to something like that in the springtime, even while other kids are still in school and they've already finished their year. And I finally told him, I'm like, you guys know this isn't normal, right? And my son one day, he's like, what do you mean it's not normal?
What do you mean?
There's normally a line of people on these stairs as you're running up and down them. And he's like, there is? Yeah, he was probably about 9 or 10 at the time. He's just like, whoa, like what an idea. So there is some things about being homeschooled, but I will tell you, overall, I can vouch for your children without even knowing them, that they are dedicated, they are self-starters. And again, no offense to anybody that is not homeschooled. I'm just talking from the viewpoint of the
Right.
lifestyle we have chosen. That's it.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I will tell you, I just talked to my middle son. We were running errands like 2 days ago, and we have an education program for anyone that's entrepreneurial minded to become entrepreneurs and to launch businesses. That's what Britton King does. And I told him, I said, I know you're kind of like, what do you want to do? Both of my boys want to be professional baseball players, which is a huge, huge dream, and I'm totally supporting that. But at the same time, I told him, I said, I want you to go through our program and start your own business. So if you do have that opportunity to have a baseball career, that when that is over, you
Right.
already have a fully functional business and you
Yeah.
have more skill set than just one. Not saying it's a bad one. I'm just saying it's one. So let's create more skill sets for you. And I love that it's just going to
Yeah.
transition from high school, homeschool, to I'm going to do a new program that's going to teach me even bigger skills. So I love that.
Great.
So are your children involved in your business currently? I know they probably have to jump in and help once in a while. Yes, good.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have 2 girls and 3 boys. And my second eldest, Kiara, she is going to college right now for to become an accountant. So she's been part of my business since she was 17, where she did all the bookkeeping, and then we would have a formal accountant, and so she would do all the grunt work, if you will, receipts and getting that off to accounting. So she has been like my right hand man, if you will, through all thick and thin
That's
of
amazing.
entrepreneurship, of the yes, we got the funds. No, we didn't get the funds. Yes, we got the funds.
Yes,
No,
we
we
know
didn't get the funds, and there as startups, as that sometimes you get paid and sometimes you don't. And
yes.
she's just been my rock, and man, she's just been through it all with me. And I can't say enough about Kiara and what that journey has been for her in her life.
Yes. Yes.
I am hoping this year, one of my goals is I have a for-profit business and a nonprofit. The
Okay.
nonprofit I don't use very much.
Mhm.
It's kind of like on the shelf. I need to pull it off once in a while, but it's there, and it doesn't have a board really. It's not being pushed in the community at all. And the reason behind it is because we want to model something different for the people that live here. We don't want to always have our hands out to the government as a nonprofit and
Yes.
saying, please give us money, please give us money. This is how we're going to sustain ourselves. Oh, but then we want to tell you, person, that you should go to the government and ask for money on a personal level. And we just thought that wasn't okay. So we needed to model a for-profit idea that it's okay to go to work, get money and come home and take care of your family. So for most people in our neighborhood, that's like a really strange concept because the government in Canada just supports people, which is and there's upsides and downsides to that. So hopefully this year, my son Noah, I'd love to hire him to oversee that nonprofit with his other sister, Mira. So the two of them, I'd love to work together in getting all the details and getting that nonprofit really off the shelf and working. It's not a priority. It's kind of something that would be nice to have, but until we have the extra funds to do that, I don't feel right to get them in that position. But I have spoken to them and they're both very interested in leading. I love the idea of young leaders
Yes.
to take on that responsibility of getting that nonprofit functional, having a board, making it known, marketing within the community, all that good stuff. So hopefully by the end of the year, one of my goals is that I'll have 3 of my 5 kids working with me. And
That's
what a
beautiful.
privilege. What a
Yes.
privilege to have your kids in your
Yes.
business with you. It's been amazing. Yeah.
It's funny because that's always been my idea, and I've always wanted the children to pick this up and keep it going and then make it into something totally different and bigger. It doesn't matter. I want it to just keep evolving. And it's so funny because I was actually kind of a little hesitant when I talked to my son the other day, because this has been my goal this entire time, was to be able to have him a part of it. So when I said that to him, I was kind of like driving and going, he goes, okay. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop talking now. I closed the deal. I need to stop talking now and not talk him out of it. But then my youngest son, who's 10, he comes over to the computer sometimes and he's like, you know how to do that? Whoa. It
Love
makes
that.
me feel really, really good for a moment because he's like really
Love
impressed.
it.
He's like, I didn't know you how to do that. Wow, you do that, Mom? Oh. I'm like, yes, I do. So it's just a proud moment.
Totally. Those comments from your
Yeah.
kids. Oh my gosh. I came back from a counselor meeting and I told my youngest kid that the entire Vancouver Council would like to have a meeting with me in the new year. And he goes, yeah, because you're my mom.
Oh.
And I'm like, yes, just like you just said.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
yes, I am. That's
That's
the
awesome.
characteristics you see in your mama. Yes.
It's so funny because I had a moment the other day where I had to do 2 presentations, and my computer for some reason was not working for Zoom that day. You know how it is, that random day when you really need it to work. And I had a little bit of a panic attack. Everybody jumped in the house and made it all work. And I was so grateful. And I still was like, I didn't do that great on the first one, but they were back to back. So I had a couple of minutes to rest, and then I had to do the second one. And I appreciate it. Turned into a family effort. Like it's
Love
like
it.
anybody would have never known from this viewpoint.
Right.
But just getting to that point to get it all to work, it was like, okay, all hands on deck right now. And everybody jumped in. And I'm so grateful. And things like that are the unseen parts of entrepreneurialism that
Yes.
are just so beautiful, and memories. So it is so beautiful. And again, to going to, vacation when there's nobody else around is wonderful. Like I like that part too. I'm going to be honest with you. I love that part.
Yeah.
I don't even actually like going when it's like spring break or anything like that now, because I'm like, oh, it's going to be a lot of people. Let's go when there's not people.
Yeah.
So that's become standard. So for your non-for-profit for next year, you said that you want it to be more functional, maybe not, to the point of complete independence, because you then would have 2 complete companies. But if you had the right people in place, then
Right.
it would be. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my goal is actually to get out of being the CEO, and I just want to be a business owner. I have 2 amazing guys in my life that are ready to train me as a asset manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually, I want to be a business owner. I don't want to be in the day to day
Yes.
of running companies. So that really is the ultimate goal. I was actually just looking at books last night around just getting more education on what does it mean to be an asset manager. I mean, I think
Yes.
that's the ultimate place to go is leaving the CEO role.
Yes.
And a friend of ours in our alliance that we're a part of talks about exiting without exiting.
Yes.
And because we, especially if you've built your business from ground up, the idea of giving it over to someone else and leaving, I
Yes.
get the idea of exiting without exiting because you don't want to completely exit because this
No.
is your baby. You've put years and years into this, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I don't want to be in the office every single day. I want to be able to be on the beach of Greece and to be able to just check in and make sure all the numbers are working okay and
Exactly.
everybody is happy and then be done with it and do whatever else I want. So with my business particularly, I do see this actually going global.
Mhm.
And I do want to have a global impact. I have been asked to go into cities around the world, Pakistan, Hawaii, LA, like there's these connections where people are like, I get how this could work in my neighborhood. Can you please come and do that here? And
Yeah.
so the idea of being in an office every single day in Vancouver, especially in the winter, it gets a little chilly, is not attractive to me. And I just want to take my kids and my family and travel the world and experience new experiences and make massive impacts
Yes.
positive impacts wherever I
Yes.
go.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, would you in the future be looking for others that have the mindset to make this change in their community? Are you thinking about maybe starting a whole program to like not franchise, because again, this is for outreach, not as it's one of those things. It's like, yes, you need to make it profitable for you, obviously, but at the same time, you're not trying to become a lottery winner overnight because you
no,
found the greatest idea ever. Yeah,
right.
again,
Yeah,
that's not what entrepreneurialism is about. However, if you found individuals, could you put them into whatever that franchise situation may look like?
absolutely. So that's
Okay.
what we're actually talking about right now with another city of me coming on board. So the idea is that our team comes down. We find we're a female development company, so we find other female developers on the ground that have been working there already, and we create teams. And that's where really my niche is creating the teams in order to
Yes.
get the job done. This idea of us being the experts and parachuting into a city is
Yeah.
not sustainable.
No.
And so we
Won't keep
find the
them.
people on the ground in those three categories: the home who builds the homes, the physical homes, the people that create the jobs, and then the people that and the team that intentionally develops the community. And when you put those three things together, so we come in to find those people, and then it just mushrooms. People are like, oh, well, we know people that do this, and like, okay, well, let's go talk to them, and
Yeah.
let's start putting teams together and developing those teams,
Yes.
and then sustaining those teams. So yes, we actually have hired a company that once our buildings actually start, they will come in like monthly and they create a playbook so that we can go, okay, here's our playbook. We've got the teams, and you can hire me as your consultant so that I can help you guide from conception to completion.
That's
Hmm.
beautiful. That's beautiful. So you said that you've had interest in several countries, not just the US based.
Right.
So are you going to be focusing more Canada, US to start, or is it going to be wherever the need pops up?
Um, Yes, Canada, Vancouver for sure, but Vancouver is a tough place because in real estate, it is one of the hottest places on the earth for real
Oh,
estate.
okay.
And so it's like New York in a lot of senses. It's like not a lot of land. But
Mm.
lots of people are wanting to live here because it's not like the rest of Canada. It's not like freezing. We don't get a lot of snow. The snow stays on the mountains, which is really nice. That's where it belongs, as
Okay.
far as I'm
Yes.
concerned.
Right.
Yes. Well,
And
we're too
it's very temperate. Yeah, it's like Seattle. Yeah,
okay.
very,
Yeah.
very temperate. So
We're two Chicago girls, so we completely agree. Anytime you say anything snow or winter, we're like, mm-mm, mm-mm. So don't worry, we understand. Don't worry.
So Vancouver is a tough place to, and the homeless crisis they call it. I don't think it's a homeless crisis. I think it's a poverty crisis because that's really what the problem is. But all of that is a tough place to do what I'm trying to do. So we are finding interest in other U.S. states that are like, hey, we got the money, you've got the vision, come on in. Like they're just opening it up for our companies. So.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
there may be other cities that this coming year it may like go faster than Vancouver, but Vancouver really is our pilot project. It really is. Let's put this into practice,
Yes.
and because it is my neighborhood, it's not just a
Of
neighborhood
course.
that's
Yeah.
poor. It's actually I really care about my neighbors and I care about my friends that are really trying to make a difference in their lives. So this is really where I want to see this the success because it's personal. But yes, we have been invited to other areas around the world, and we'll probably will stay pretty close to home in the idea of U.S. and Canada first before we go to like Pakistan and other places. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I have a thought, but it's almost like I dread that thought. I was going to say, well, this sounds like the work will never be done.
Right.
However, we want this to make progress always and to
Totally.
make impact. But this is one of those projects that I don't see it being an end date because making those shifts and changes took generations to get people to where they are. A lot of times, family generation, just way of life. So if that can be changed, it's going to take time too. However, I do believe quickly it can make a very, very big impact in a lot of places.
Absolutely. I think it's
Yeah.
really important to note that we're not about gentrification. We
Yes.
are about inclusion of the
Yes.
people that already live here. And
Yes.
that's a really big difference because a lot of companies want to come into really poor places, especially like Vancouver, where the real estate is like ridiculous,
Yes.
and take advantage of it and make a lot of money and push the poor out and say too bad, so sad, and that just seems horrific in my mind. So yes, we are with collaboration. We give right of first refusal to all those that actually live in the neighborhood and those that would never have the opportunity. We're doing a rent to own program, so those that would never normally have the opportunity to own their own home, they'll have their opportunity to own their
That's
own home.
beautiful.
So I just wanted to mention that. I think
Yes.
that's really, really key.
I wouldn't think that your company would ever be associated with that just naturally in the causation of
Sure,
the
sometimes people are like, so what
yeah.
about gentrification? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh
No,
yeah, no.
honestly, that thought wasn't even in my head. So thank you for clarifying for anybody that would think that. But I think Lee and I would be the first to jump in and defend and say, no, you've got the wrong idea here. In fact, so I don't know how familiar you are with Chicago, but Chicago is still statistically the most segregated city in the
Mm,
US.
mm,
And it's not anything that anybody tries to do. It's just the way the neighborhoods have evolved over time. And it's very sad in ways because there's also this beautiful area. I always think of it. And if you're not familiar, if you ever get to Chicago, we will both be your tour
Yeah.
guide. It's an area called Pilsen. And it was actually a couple of years ago written up in Forbes magazine as like the coolest neighborhood to move into. But most Chicagoans have never been to that neighborhood. So it was
mm.
really interesting that Forbes had moved there. And Lee, have you spent much time in Pilsen yourself? Yeah,
No, I haven't.
I have because I love the neighborhood because it is the closest thing you get to a city that resembles and feels like Mexico City. And I love Mexico City. So I love it because it's authentic Mexican food, murals on the walls, and it really is
Awesome.
a beautiful neighborhood. Now, I will tell you, they actually got ticked off when a couple miles from the main area there was a Dunkin' Donuts added. Ticked off. That's not our neighborhood. No, we don't have it here. There's only original restaurants there. It's just really clear.
Mm.
However, it has been kind of changed, some for the good, some for the bad, as in like a little bit more trampled on, I guess is the word I'll use, because it isn't as authentic as it used to be. And I don't want to see that messed up because it is such a cool, beautiful area. And it's an area that was all of the old warehouses of Chicago. And you have lofts that are from the early 1900s that were warehouses. And just, it's so amazing of a neighborhood. And same thing though, I hope they never get a Starbucks. Every time I go and eat at one of my favorite restaurants there, I always think, please don't ever put a Starbucks around here. It just wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be fair or respectful. And so, no offense to Starbucks as I'm drinking out of my Starbucks cup, but I just think that there's certain neighborhoods and certain areas that you do need to preserve. Not that others don't, but if like we're familiar, and I had a business many, many years in an area, it's called Naperville, Illinois. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but in the US, it was voted for years as one of the best neighborhoods to raise your children. The average home is about, I'd say, what, 6 to 800,000 now?
Yeah.
And you get that much land with it, and this big of a house on that much land. And it's a beautiful area, but the downtown area is all chain restaurants and Starbucks. And again, that's not wrong, but that's just the feel of that area. Whereas you go into a Pilsen or something like that and you get authentic restaurants, people still making tortillas by hand, and ticked off people that will not go to Dunkin' Donuts because they're like, not ours. So I appreciate those kind of neighborhoods immensely. So I understand, and we all do within this group, that what you're trying to create is not the version of Monopoly where you take everything off the board and create something brand new.
I mean, at the same time, improving a neighborhood doesn't mean that you're gentrifying it.
Correct.
And, Majora Carter, I want to drop her name. She's this amazing female entrepreneur from the Bronx.
Okay.
She's got a book out. She wrote a couple years ago. Anyways, she's my hero and mentor, even though I haven't met her. And she talks about getting rid of the legally the stores that really support poverty. So I'm thinking of like those fast loan places. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, that's what she describes as like, let's get rid of those things. Like,
Yeah.
let's get rid of now the authentic Mexican thing sounds amazing and beautiful, but and I get that, but I'm not totally against having some decent,
Yes.
affordable
Yes.
ways. And so one of on the jobs team that I'm talking about in the vision and creation is the people that live here create their own businesses, and we have a crackerjack team of on fire women entrepreneurs that love startups and are ready to help the women in our neighborhood that want to start up their own startups. So yes, we'll definitely have retail space for that. And I think that's really, really important. But at the same time, I'm not totally against a local cafe
Yes.
coming in, and I do anticipate people saying, "Oh, you're gentrifying the neighborhood." No, I'm improving the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and I'm okay to have those kind of stores because that's what regular people do. It's
Well,
not the poor neighborhood. It's not when you live in that kind of mindset. I am poor, or I live in the poor neighborhood. I'll never be something other than that, and you see it every single day by these type of stores that you live beside. I think that's really, really important, and Majora Carter talks about that. And so let's not gentrify, but let's improve, and I'm okay with that.
and get rid of the food deserts. That's the other thing, is that with that effort, that there's so many areas that people are not familiar. We hear about this all the time in Chicago, especially like again the south side of Chicago, that there are areas that they consider a food desert, that the only choices are probably a couple fast food restaurants.
Right.
And you have to go miles, if not outside of your boundary of where you're capable of going, to get real fresh food, or go to a grocery store that has those options even. So
Exactly.
it's closer than we all think. It really is. That situation is not that far removed from where we are in our daily lives, and just being aware of it and helping out. I agree. It isn't trying to go through and, like I said, bulldoze any area. It is just to help what's already there improve. So, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was an amazing conversation.
Yes.
we're very, very grateful. The one thing that we ask everybody, especially when they're going to launch a new project, that when you have new projects coming up, we ask that you come back and talk to us again, because we'd love to help you get the right people involved. And again, all we can do is, shine that spotlight on your company and help you find the right women. Because again, this entire group is only female, and it's about being entrepreneurs. So I have a feeling that there's probably a couple people that will watch this in a replay or later on. And again, that's why we want to have you back again, so that your fresh face is at the top of the feed and not buried below. So we'd love to have you come back whenever you would like. That's an open invitation to you and to talk to us again, because I know this is a conversation we could have for hours on end. And would love, love, love to have you on a podcast very soon. I think that's already being set up, if it hasn't already been, because Lee takes care of all that. I appreciate Lee so, so much. I'm like, here, screenshot. Here's another person. Can you take care of it? So she is awesome at that. She's my organizer in life too, by the way. So it's just like all encompassing. I really, honestly, she should be like the top paid person in the entire world. So we love, love, love that we've got this dynamic, but we would love to coordinate with you to make sure that we get a chance in the future. But before we go, the one thing we always ask is if people would like to get in contact with you now and just find out opportunities in the future, would it be better through LinkedIn, through your Facebook? Yeah. Okay. So, and is it just under Sherry White then?
Yep.
Okay.
So LinkedIn, I spend probably way too much time on, so that's a really great place, but that's the only social I'm on, because I find the others is a lot of waste of time. So
well, again,
LinkedIn,
for you, yes,
WhatsApp,
exactly.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm happy to share my number. It's 236-514-8614. You can, get me on WhatsApp and introduce yourself. And I'm always open for a chat. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you first and foremost, again, for your time.
Yes.
Giving us your time today. We always try to remember to say that. And Lee, do you want to tell her what we always end with, what you always tell everyone?
So my tagline, I guess, I don't know.
Well, it's okay. I steal it every time you're not around. So.
So our tagline is that if we can do it, you can do it. So anyone can, with the right drive, with the right why, can become an entrepreneur. So yes. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I am seriously inspired. And I don't know, I might want to get involved myself. So
we'd love to have you. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Yes, don't worry. We all have to have that conversation with you as well. So
love it. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And for featuring Steadfast. Thank you.
Thank you.